All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Getting In a College Coach Conversation. It's New Year's Eve, and we are talking New Year's resolutions. Joining me is a former Barnard admissions officer, also worked at Fordham and Montclair State, and happens to be my colleague now, Tova Tolman. Hi, Tova.
Hi, Beth.
How are you?
I am well. It's good to be here today.
Absolutely. And as I explained to our listeners up front, we are celebrating New Year's Eve, but it's actually December 15th. So no, we are not working on New Year's Eve. And you may not be watching this on New Year's Eve, but all right, let's get to it. We have some goals that we would like to suggest, some New Year's resolutions we would like to suggest to some different groups of students and parents. But before we get into our ideas for resolutions to consider, one suggestion was, do we want to establish these as SMART goals? And I think before we start in on the resolutions themselves, tell us what a SMART goal is and how that works.
I think the first time I heard the term, I obviously thought it was, is it a good goal? Is it clever? Is it smart? And then I realized, oh, no, it's an acronym for, is it SMART? So not is it just smart, but the S is specific. What is the actual outcome that you would like? M is measurable. How are you going to know when you've actually reached this goal? A is attainable. How confident are you that this is actually something you're capable of doing? R is relevant. Is this actually meaningful to you right now? Is this an important, relevant goal for you today? And timed. And this one I think is key specifically for what gets in the way of a lot of people completing resolutions and goals is, what is the goal for actually completing said resolution?
Right.
When is your endpoint?
Yes. Okay. Awesome. So we're not going to put all of these into the SMART goal framework, but I think that's really interesting way to think about these if you're going to make resolutions yourself. All right. The first group we want to address out there are all of our seniors. You are sitting around, you have presumably submitted applications or you're finishing up with submitting your application. What's a piece of advice you have for that group for resolutions?
And I think for this one, I like to keep it more personal than necessarily college related, because this is a group of people who are getting ready to end their 4-year high school journey. And I want them to take a minute and think back to the beginning of freshman year. What's something they knew for sure as a complete truth they were going to accomplish in high school, or they were going to do, whether it was a life experience or something that they wanted to try. And if they're going to be really honest with themselves, looking back, they never did it because maybe they were too scared or they just never made it a priority. Think of something that you wanted to do in high school that you haven't done yet and be unafraid. Make it happen before you graduate.
I love it. I feel like there are movies made about this, right?
Pretty much, yeah. The book club was a good one recently.
Yes, exactly. So, right, figure that out. I love that advice. I think it's great because mine is very boring, but I would, as a senior, on December 31st of your senior year, I need you all to resolve that you will not suffer from senior slump. You do not want to be adding an extra layer of stress onto your life by not doing well in classes that you have been doing fine in. And now all of a sudden you were an A/B student and now you're a C student or possibly worse. And now you have to worry, is my offer going to get rescinded? If I haven't heard from my schools, are my third quarter grades going to take me from being an admit to a deny? Like, don't do it. Just you have worked so hard for so long. Now is not the time to stop. All right.
You say that's boring, but I feel like that's a pretty important one.
It's important. It's just not very exciting.
Yeah.
No one's making a movie about avoiding your senior slump. Let's put it that way. All right. How about juniors? What do you got for us there?
All right. Well, juniors right now are probably diving into the search, right? Putting together some tools. So here's a very practical, tangible one, very easy to turn into a SMART goal. I want every junior to identify 3 things you want your future college to have. I don't care what they are, as long as they are 3 things that you know you care about. Maybe it's that they have green quads. maybe that there are 8 Starbucks on campus, that there's a 3D printer in every basement of every residence hall that you could possibly step into. Whatever it is, find 3 things you care about that your future college must have.
Yes, I love that because there's never a bigger struggle than when a student's trying to figure out their college list and either they say, I don't care what a college has, I'm open to everything, or I have no idea what I want and therefore none of these seem exciting to me. And it's because you haven't really done the internal work to be thoughtful about what do you want out of a college. Really good advice. Mine is to, if you do have some schools that you already know that you really like, get on their mailing list and start opening emails and clicking links. We have talked about this on the show many times. I probably can't repeat it enough. You are creating a digital footprint with many, many, many colleges that are out there. They're going to be paying attention to your interaction with them. And having interaction with them can be a difference maker when it comes time to who they're going to admit and who is not going to make the cut. So, and then as you add schools, get on their mailing lists. So start to create that relationship.
Can we add in that they need to do it with the same email address that they're going to be using from here forward?
Yes.
That one. And I know we've said that one on the show before too, but I just can't re-say that one enough times.
No, and it's true. And if your email address is something silly like iscorealot@gmail.com, you need to change it. And, it's sort of, that's inappropriate, right? It is inappropriate. And we know somebody who had that as an email address. So, I had my son create an email address. He had a silly one from when he was a kid. He has a Gmail address that he uses for everything that is college related. And it is his name. And and a number, and there is nothing objectionable about it. And he uses it for everything college related. I think that is really good advice. All right. What about sophomores? What should they be doing now?
Well, they're still hopefully keeping their eye on high school and focused on high school. And we're not here to tell sophomores to start worrying about college, but thinking about enhancing that high school experience. I want you to think about your relationships with your teachers. Is there still a teacher at this point, halfway through junior year or sophomore year, that you have not had a one-on-one conversation with? I don't care if it's on Zoom or Google Classroom or another sort of virtual experience. If there's a teacher you still haven't spoken to one-on-one, schedule a time. They would love to chat with you. They would love a student to be more engaged.
Yes.
And it can be done virtually. This doesn't have to be done in person. There are all kinds of reasons why this is only going to help you moving down the road. It's going to help you engage more with the content of the course. It's going to help you practice just getting to know your teachers, thinking about college down the road. At the end of junior year, we're going to ask you to find 2 teachers to write letters of recommendation for you. If you have no relationship with your teachers, that's a hard ask. Start practicing now. Find a teacher you've yet to speak to and schedule some one-on-one time.
Yes, I love that advice. I think it's really great. Mine is to start thinking about an interesting summer. What do you want to do this summer? And by interesting summer, I don't mean necessarily that you have to pay a lot of money to do a program on a college campus or to travel. It's whatever you think would be interesting to do during the summer, assuming that an interesting summer for you is not sitting in your basement playing video games, or if we're able to going to the pool or the beach with your friends, right? So, I know we're all hoping for that. However, if you have that opportunity, there's going to be more expected of you as well. So, what does that look like? Do you want to get a job? Is there a place where you see teenagers working every summer and think to yourself, wow, that looks like it would be a lot of fun and I would get paid? Is there some research that you were interested in doing, and do you want to go and see if you can find an opportunity to have a mentor to mentor you in that research? Do you want to, I don't know, read 100 books and keep track of it and start a blog where you write about all the books that you're reading and make recommendations to people? I don't really know what it looks like because I don't know you, but if you start thinking about an interesting summer and have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, so that if one plan doesn't work out, you have others in the wings, I think you will be much more likely to have an interesting summer than if in May of your sophomore year, you sort of say, oh, I guess I should start thinking about my summer, right? Absolutely. December 31st, now's the time to think about it.
I love it.
All right. freshman, you're halfway through your first year of high school. What's your, what resolution would you hope that every freshman would adhere to?
I have a really simple one. I don't know if it's you said boring when it was simple. I don't feel like this is boring. It could be really fun. Try something new. Anything.
Yeah.
Something new, please. I beg of you. It can be academically, it can be socially, it can be a personal self goal, a new club, talking to someone that scares you, a new activity. Try something new.
I love it. I don't think that's boring at all. Again, mine was boring because all I was doing is saying, keep doing well in school. Like, yay, that's a snooze. And
Important.
on the same sort of theme for me, my resolution for freshmen is do as well as you possibly can. The UC system is not looking at your ninth grade grades, but for the most part, colleges are looking at your ninth grade grades. It's where you set yourself up for future success, both in high school and then in terms of the opportunities that will be available to you when far in the future you are applying to college. Side note, it's not so far in the future, but also, if you don't put in the time and do as well as you can, that might mean that even though you're in regular level English this year, because there was no honors level English, if you don't do well, then you're not going to qualify to go into honors English. So if that was your favorite course and you kind of didn't give it your all in freshman year, well, now you're in regular level English when you could have been in honors, and you're not reading the same books and it's not as interesting, right? So you are going to decrease your opportunities as you don't do as well as you can, right? So you shouldn't stress if you're not a straight A student. That's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is putting in your best effort, turning in all of your assignments, not leaving everything to the last minute. So it's putting in the effort that should get you the best results, is really my advice.
I don't think that one's boring either, right? High school all builds on it. It's all, yes, it's cumulative, but it's, I think that we as college admission officers always looked at the 4-year progress.
Yes.
How do they build upon it? Where do they begin and where do they end? And how do they get from point A to point B? So I don't think that's so boring in the larger scheme of things.
Right. I think the challenge when you're a freshman is just understanding. I think a lot of students have a very limited understanding of how what they do at 1 p.m. can impact their life at 3 p.m., let alone how what you can do over a year can impact your options in 3 years. I mean, give me a break. Most adults can't think that far in advance. So it's asking a lot, but if you think about it, right, at least that maybe gets you at least aware that this can be impactful for you. All right. Last round of resolutions. And for this one, we're targeting parents. So what is something you would love for parents to resolve to do in 2021?
I'm going to go with remember where you parked when you go to the grocery. Wait, no, that's my resolution for this year.
That's yours.
I'm going to do it. This is going to be the year that I remember where I park when I go to the grocery store. Okay, parents of high school students, though. I want to ask them to pay no mind to the Joneses. I think parents can be so wrapped up in what is a good school, and I just used air quotes for those of you who are listening as opposed to watching. What is a good school versus what is a good school for my student?
Yes.
And thinking that, how quick we are to celebrate, oh, so-and-so got into this school and so-and-so got into that school. Let's remember to be supportive of all schools because other schools might be awesome and better suited for this student and that student. So let's celebrate all of them. And for your student, please pay no mind to what your nephew is doing, what your hairdresser's little brother's cousin is doing, and focus on what is going to be the best school for your student.
Right. And the other thing I would just throw out there to add to that is where kids are applying has nothing at all to do with where they will be competitive or where they're getting in. So just FYI on that front. I love that advice. I think it's really important. This is not the piece of advice I had singled out about just kind of shutting your ears to everything going on around you. But if you can do that, I guarantee you will be in a much better place. You won't get a lot of rumors and innuendo that sounds like it could be true, but in fact is not. We spend, I would say, 50 to 70% of our time dispelling those myths that make the parent grapevine and really feel like they should be true. So the more you can kind of pay attention to what's happening in your family versus the out. Very quickly with mine, there is no better start to this process that will yield the best possible outcome than being honest with yourself and taking a step back and saying, I love my child and I only see their good qualities, or my child drives me nuts and I can only see what they're doing that's wrong. And take an honest look at your child. What are their weaknesses? What are their strengths? And supporting the strengths and helping them to shore up the weaknesses, and recognizing that you don't need your child to get straight A's to go to college. They don't need to go to an Ivy to go to college, and most students are not going to go there. But if you put too much pressure on them and it's not their own personal desire, it leads to a lot of angst and unhappiness, and actually could lead to the student not doing as well as they could do and harm their chances at other schools. So being realistic about the child you have. I steal that from a colleague of ours who says that frequently, but I think it's really, really good advice. And if you can resolve to do that, it's great. Tova, thanks so much for being here today.
My pleasure, Beth. This was fun, as always.
Thank you. And next week, Ian is going to be hosting, and we're going to be talking about your applications are in, what now, both from an admissions perspective and a finance perspective. And we're also going to be offering advice for getting started if you're a junior. And don't forget, we are here every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific. Have a nice new year, everybody.